Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deergan. Alongside me, as always, is the one who's rendered by AI, Josh Finney.
Jesus Christ, this is going downhill in a hurry.
You want to hear going downhill, Josh? I have something. Sure. I have something to ask you.
Oh no!
What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo?
As opposed to lighter.
Well, yes, but
I don't
know. One's really heavy and one's a little lighter.
I almost had that.
You did.
Jesus.
I know. What do you call a pig who practices karate?
A pork chop?
Yeah, you got it. Nailed it.
Did your kids give you a book of dad jokes or something?
No, I found a dad joke thing on Instagram that I was scrolling through. It's like these little stick figure cartoons telling dad jokes. It's kind of
unbelievable. Funny. Unbelievable. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
Oh, man. Good times, huh? Xbox. We both have one of those.
Yeah.
Two of those.
Man, this it's been a busy, yeah, right? If you include like my 360, I probably have like 3 or 4 Xboxes in this house.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, this we have a lot tonight, but most of them are smaller stories. I want to spend time on this showcase announcement that we got today. Do a little bit of speculation there. Got to talk about the reception, respectfully, of both South of Midnight and the Minecraft movie. And then we have a smorgasbord of stories here to go through. So, and as well as we had the Switch 2 last week. Switch 2 got unveiled, so we'll have some Switch 2 talk later on. Let's start off with this showcase though, Corey.
Yeah, showcase. Xbox showcase.
Xbox showcase. Got the announcement yesterday. That's happening on Sunday, June 8th, which is shaping up to be just one of the busiest weekends I think I've ever seen in games.
Yeah, are you going to watch your Xbox showcase on your Switch 2, Josh?
I very well might. I might watch it in game chat at 10 frames a second.
Yeah, we should hop on that.
All joking aside, though, realistically, like, the Switch 2 launches on June 5th, which is a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Summer Game Fest, I believe, is happening that same day.
Mm-hmm.
The 8th is the Xbox showcase. It's safe to assume a Nintendo Direct is going to happen at some point between June 4th and June 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Xbox has announced an entire week of programming happening post-showcase, just like they always have. It's going to be a digital-only showcase this year. No in-person event. They will do an in-person FanFest event later this year, they said, for the 10th anniversary. A lot of us think that's going to be Gamescom. I think it's a little silly, but okay, way to alienate like 70% of your consumer base. Beyond that, it's just it's turning into a very busy week. Like, you're gonna have the devs going on. There's gonna be a PlayStation showcase at some point in the weeks leading up to that. Most likely, they seem to like that third week of May. I'd be pegging the 22nd or 29th of May for a PlayStation showcase personally right now. But this we say this every year because year over year since that very polarizing 2020 showcase during COVID, Microsoft has just been better and better every year. Every year their showcases have been better, and I really think you can hit a crescendo with it this year. So it is the Xbox Game Showcase with, and I thought this was baffling at first. It's taken me about 24 hours to come around on it. The Outer Worlds 2 is getting a direct immediately afterwards. I thought that was weird at first. And then I went back and thought, was Outer Worlds like that well received? Outer Worlds 1 sold over 5 million copies. It was nominated for 4 game awards, including Game of the Year, Best Performance, Best RPG, and Best Narrative. And Obsidian has, I would say, been the most consistent developer for Microsoft since they did all those acquisitions in terms of their output. Like, Avowed might be their, like, I don't want, worst is bad terminology. It might be the most underwhelming game, and it's still probably a solid 8.5. Like, Pentiment is a 10 out of 10 for me. Grounded was a runaway success that none of us expected it to be. And of course, we know how much I love Outer Worlds. So I thought this was a little bit weird. I think that this is getting the direct spot because Fable got bumped to 2026. Like, I've been on record as saying that I thought Fable was going to get the spotlight. To me, this says that Fable will probably be done early next year, and they're just going to sit on it. I think they're going to sit on this game until late summer, early fall to get it out there for awards. Yeah. They didn't want to go up against Grand Theft Auto this year, obviously. They don't want to go up against Ghost of Yotei is going to be big, and now we know that, Nintendo is going to have 3 or 4 heavy hitters this year, with, depending on how you define heavy hitter, Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong, Metroid Prime 4, and Pokemon Legends. So
don't forget the most important game, Kirby Air Riders.
Oh my god, that is this year, isn't it?
It is.
Jesus.
Probably the August game, I'm sure.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, if
two racing games in the first 10 weeks of a console. Jesus.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense. Like, I think you should be gearing up for a more laid back fall. I think a lot of their games are hitting in the first 6 or 7 months, as opposed to in the fall when they traditionally do.
Right. Plus, if you're going to have Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty on your console in the fall, I think you're going to be just fine.
Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, and Borderlands 4 are all going to come out within about 8 weeks of each other. So that pretty much goes all your attention span right there. We talked about it. I talked about it on Tower Casuals this past week, and I think we talked about it on this show last time, that multiple live service publishers are moving major updates and releases out of fall, rushing to get them out at late summer, or just bumping them to next year entirely right now to avoid GTA. So not overly surprising, but I sat down and I wanted to do some numbers on these showcases for what can we expect this year. And typically, if you look back to I'm just going to go back to the Series X. Series X first showcase 2020. It's COVID. You had 10 first-party games announced and 2 DLCs. The average first-party games since then that have been revealed, it goes 10, 9, 7, 9, and 10. So I would say 9 or 10 games can be expected. On top of that, almost exactly on the mark. It's almost exactly 9 first-party games and 5 DLCs or title updates that are shown for first-party games every year. Almost right on the money. So I was trying to think back, okay, so what could we expect this year? What are games we can expect to see updates on? But then I was thinking, oh, well, how do you classify some of these other big things? Because they have a big thing happening almost every year. In 2020, it was, the full Destiny franchise is coming to Game Pass. And in comparison to everything that's going to follow, that seems like a very small announcement. But that was big in COVID. That was big in COVID times. So in 2021, it's your first show with Bethesda. They announce all these games that are going to come to Game Pass, including the classic Fallout games, blah, blah, blah. We got the second wave of those. It's their first show with Bethesda. They bookended it with Starfield and Redfall reveals. In 2022, they bookended it again, but they just flip-flopped it. They opened with Redfall gameplay. God, what a disaster. And they closed it out with Starfield. This is not a Starfield Direct. This was just Starfield. This is the first time we ever got gameplay. Todd Howard showed 15 minutes of gameplay here. And then, in addition, the big announcement that year was Kojima's game and the Persona franchise coming to Xbox.
Right.
In 2023, you get bookended with Fable and Clockwork Revolution. You got the first Direct that they did, and I want to say that's the year that you got the Riot partnership.
Yeah. on PC,
I'm trying to
right? Like,
remember if that's the year that we got it or not. No, excuse me, that was 2022. 2022. So I was wrong. That was actually the year. God, 2022 was packed. Um, I just did a quick Google, but yeah, 2022, you get that. And then last year, you bookend with Black Ops 6, Gears E Day, and then you have a direct for Black Ops 6. So it feels kind of strange that we're going out to Outer Worlds. Like, oh, this is our second sci fi RPG in 3 years that we're going to, well, really in 4 years that we're going to bookend this with. But
yeah,
that shows, I think, a huge amount of confidence in this game. They think it's clearly going to be Game of the Year material. Them giving this the direct slot tells me not to expect too many big things this fall outside of outside of this Ninja Gaiden 4 and whatever the Call of Duty game is this year. Like that's a good enough lineup, I think, for anybody
right.
in a year with GTA 6. But that also probably points to early next year is going to be jam fucking packed. I think this also probably can dispel any thoughts we had of E-Day being a holiday title this year. I fail to see why E-Day would not be the game you would focus on here if it was coming out this fall.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think it is.
I don't
I
think it
really
is
don't think
either.
it
I
is.
do think it's before next summer, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think it's the game here. So
Which will
that
be what next year will be what the 20th anniversary of Gears,
yeah,
right?
we've talked about this before. Next year's a really big year. It's the 20th anniversary of Gears, but it's also the 25th anniversary of Halo and Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a betting man, you put Gears out in the first half of the year to let it have its time to shine.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going by the rotation schedule, Infinity Ward is due up with Call of Duty next fall. And that game is going to go bonkers. Infinity
Yeah.
Ward games are always just, they're the
Mm-hmm.
highlight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
You just
and if
celebrate the whole year, right? I mean,
I think you're going to celebrate the whole year, yes. And I think the CE remake is next year. So you're going to want that to have that November slot. I'm sorry. Like, you're going to take a Halo CE remake over Gears E Day. Just no offense. Halo desperately needs some good news. They're going to take that premium slot. I bet money that it's out there on the 25th anniversary of Halo in general.
mm-hmm.
Because I'm
Yeah.
not sure what day that puts us at, but I would bet serious money that they're releasing it that weekend.
Yeah.
So beyond that though, I wanted to kind of do a little bit of predicting. Like what do we think reasonably is here? And I came up with a short list. I think we know basically everything that's going to be here. I think this is just going to be a year where it's a lot of updates on shit we've already seen.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of expect to see an update of Clockwork Revolution. I think we'll probably see a little bit more of Fable.
Fable gameplay has to be here. I would go
Uh-huh.
so far as to say I think it opens the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I think
that
it's
is that is the way to make a statement. You open with Fable gameplay.
yeah, especially because like they're well, I mean, technically the Outer Worlds is getting its own
Mm-hmm.
showcase, right? So technically you're closing with that, but I mean, like the closer would be what maybe the announcement of the Halo CE remake.
I think it is. I think you close with the CE remake or with the first footage of E Day. I think
Mhm.
those are the two things you could close with.
Yeah. See, I wonder if they're gonna. Man, E Day is so strange to where to put it, right?
But
Because
they
you already
closed with
have.
it last year too,
I
so
know it's. I don't think you close with it because you closed with it last year. I think you either open with it
I think you
or
have to end with Halo.
yeah, you have to end with Halo. You have to, right? I mean,
Even if it's just even if it's
or
just
unless you
showing.
open with it.
See, I don't think you open with it because I think when you do it, you have to put that 2026 date on it. But
Yeah.
also, if you do, people are going to instantly go, or it's undated in
Hmm.
general, like Infinite was when it was first announced. That's just like, oh, a reimagining of Halo, right? I think that you have to make it very clear that it's the CE remake and that it's just in development. I think you just slap in development on the end.
Yeah.
My bet would be you just show the very opening of that first level on the Halo ring in Halo CE. I think that's what you show.
Well, is that certain affinity thing still going on? That Halo project?
Man, we've heard so many things back and forth about this.
Yeah.
I personally don't think it's happening because they've taken over developing multiplayer for the franchise in general. I mean, what I can't
Yeah.
believe I'm going to say this. What if you reveal CE remake and the next Halo both at this show?
I mean, I
You could,
you could.
but I don't love
Well,
that.
I see. Here's the thing. I wonder if they're gonna. Man, they, it's so hard because there's so many rumored Halo projects out there, right? Including the Master Chief Collection on PS5 and Switch 2, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I
which
don't.
we've got a story on that later on.
Yeah. So, like, I think you kind of want to keep the Halo stuff in one bulk, but do you close with all of that? Like,
I don't think you close. So the way I would like, because I wasn't even thinking the next Halo. I think you could tease the next Halo and just be like, oh yeah, we're gonna kind of like build this up over like 2 or 3 years, like we have before.
you
You're
know what
not
would be?
committing to a release date, and
Mhm.
then next year during your 25th anniversary celebration, you drop, hey, CE remake, it's coming this fall. It's a teaser of what the next Halo is going to look like graphically.
Yeah. You know what you could do though, and like not even show like the game. It's similar to the Poncho Chief
Mm-hmm.
trailer,
Mm-hmm.
but not even that long. Like a 10-second thing of like this dark, maybe like inside of a Pelican or like one of the big ships, right? Like a Pillar of Autumn type thing or something. For the next Halo, like it's dark, and then you just see the lights start turning on row by row by row, and then you just see Master Chief's helmet sitting there, and then you just see a hand reach down and pick it up, and then it goes black, says Halo now in development or whatever.
Oh, man, it would be so good. I think Microsoft is so scared of doing things like this now.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they do it, they want to do a big ass CG trailer like E-Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's two games that would get something like this though at this show, it's Halo and it's something Fallout related. Something Fallout related is going to be there
Yeah, especially because of like the
because of
show
the show.
is.
Because of the show. But
Mhm.
I want to go back to something that Jeff Grubb said about 2 years ago, that there were people inside Microsoft trying to figure out how they could fast track Fallout. And this was about a year before the show came out, year and a half before the show came out. They approached Obsidian, and at the time, Obsidian had too much going on because Pentiment had just released, but they hadn't released Avowed or Outer Worlds 2 yet. So Obsidian didn't feel like if Obsidian took it, it was going to take a few years to get that game like really going. The other rumor that went around was that they had also talked to In Exile.
Mhm.
And I kind of wonder if maybe like I've pitched this in the past.
You
What if
have.
you just make a brand new studio to handle the Fallout franchise? Because Microsoft very like Phil did not want to wait for Elder Scrolls 6 to be done to get another Fallout. Todd Howard has said he doesn't like how long it takes them to make games at Bethesda anymore. And man, it wouldn't be, and it was emphasized this would not be Fallout 5, but like Josh Sawyer sent something really cryptic out last year, right around the time of the show releasing, of the box full of his notebooks that he was writing the story and the lore in when he was directing the game.
Mhm.
What if this is his grand return to AAA games after Pentiment?
I mean, that would be great.
I don't know if there's anybody better in the industry to take on, or at least at Xbox, better to take on a Fallout game than Josh Sawyer.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder that. I think at bare minimum, you're going to get the announcement that 1, 2, and maybe Tactics are getting remastered by In Exile.
Mhm.
So we have to remember the In Exile team spun out of the original Interplay team that made Fallout.
Yeah.
Brian
Maybe
Fargo.
we'll get
Brian
the.
Fargo was part of that team. Feargus, who's over at Obsidian, was part of that team. Like,
Yeah.
it makes sense for and these two studios are very close to one another in Southern California. Like, they're both in Orange County. It
Mhm.
makes sense to me that, hey, What if we just made a super team? Like, In Exile has supposedly had a second game in development, which most of us think is Wasteland 4.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's a tactic? What if it is an isometric Fallout?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially after Baldur's Gate 3, you gotta feel emboldened maybe trying something like that. And
Yeah.
Wasteland 3 was a damn good game
Yeah.
with no budget.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Josh, you know what it is. You know what it's going to be.
oh god, I'm almost afraid to ask what.
It's going to be the PS2 Brotherhood of Steel game.
Oh my god, I actually forgot that existed. I think they pretend it doesn't exist. But
I'm
my
sure.
list of what I could come up with that I think will be there, obviously Outer Worlds 2, um, that's a layup. Clockwork Revolution, it hasn't been seen in 2 years. That's a layup, I think. Perfect Dark finally got gameplay footage last year. That'll be here.
Yeah.
State of Decay 3, I would wager, is going to be here.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was
Fable.
coming.
Yeah, Fable. Ninja Gaiden 4, I'd be shocked if Ninja Gaiden 4 isn't here, although I could see them just being like, oh, here's like a 30-second trailer for it because we're going to show it at like Jeff Keighley's show instead.
Yeah.
Because at some point you got to, and I think that's where Tony Hawk falls in this too, is, hey, we're just going to put this in like Keighley's show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming out next month. We don't need it's or not next month, but it's coming out in July. The show is in June. Hey, we'll just show you a 30-second reminder that it's coming, and hey, maybe we just show like Doom Guy skating around or something. Like, what if Master Chief is like the other character they show, or something like? Just how wild would that be? Something like that.
I mean, it's not. I don't think it's out of the question.
I think it's only out of the question because Halo hasn't come to other platforms yet, whereas Doom has.
Well,
do
maybe
something crazy and put like Indiana Jones in there.
That'd be awesome.
I think an Overwatch character would be more likely. Somebody from like a Blizzard property, I could very easily see being in there as a secret skater. Like there's just so much Microsoft can do now. Put Serial from like Diablo in there or something.
Yeah.
It's just Indiana Jones. DLCs that I came up with, Indiana Jones DLC is a guarantee, I think. There is DLC confirmed for that game if you bought the premium edition, and we haven't seen it yet. I think they're going to let it come out on PS5 and then just like let things cool a little bit. And then bam, they hit you with this in June. And it's going to come out in August or September to keep it in that conversation for the Game Awards since it got, screwed last year.
Yeah.
So I think that's here. Maybe you get the first cinematic for the final Diablo 4 expansion since there's no BlizzCon until next September.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you see something like that. I think you're going to see quick title updates for Towerborn, and because Towerborn will be on everything in game preview by then. You'll get something Sea of Thieves announced, whether that's another expansion or just like, I don't know. Again, like just promoting that Sea of Thieves is still kicking because it's doing ridiculous numbers still. And you're probably getting the second Starfield DLC here too, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because God, I need it to just go away.
Yeah.
Shattered Space runs so abysmally, it's not even funny.
Yeah. Going back to Sea of Thieves, just like a side thing. Did you see that it was the game that made the 18th? What was it like? Out of like the top 20 games on PlayStation that made the most made the most money last year, Sea of Thieves was number 18.
Yeah, it was in the top 10 for 6 straight months.
Yeah.
That's
like
just
essentially
insane.
Until like Call of Duty and like all the fall sports games came out essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, people love Sea of Thieves. We got some lifetime numbers on this franchise a few weeks back. I forget who tweeted it out, but it was a couple charts showing the comparison of sales of Xbox games on PlayStation versus on Steam, and Steam was outselling even things like Sea of Thieves like 5-1.
Right.
Which is crazy. Like Sea of Thieves has done like 13, 14 million copies on Steam alone. That is insane.
Especially because it's on Game Pass on PC.
Yeah,
it's sitting
but
right
like,
there.
I get why people don't like
Game
Pass PC. It's so shit.
No, I get it too. I was just,
So those are the games I kind of came up with that I feel like are layup. Call of Duty, I think is kind of an enigma. I think last year they really pushed for Black Ops to be there and did a reveal sooner than they normally would. because they wanted to remind people. And like Phil opened the show with, this is the first time Call of Duty's been at our show and on our stage in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
This year doesn't have that same oomph. This feels like, we got Modern Warfare 2 in 2022, and then 2023 you got Modern Warfare 3, which was like really more of a DLC in a lot of ways. That's what it sounds like this year's game is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they're going to be ready to show anything for Call of Duty. Call of Duty also just like gets its own events throughout the year. They show it at the NBA, at NBA Summer League. They show it at Gamescom traditionally.
Well, they
If you're
usually
really doing the 10th anniversary of FanFest and it happens to fall at Gamescom, there you go, Call of Duty.
Yeah, I mean, they usually show like the first things about Call of Duty usually start leaking around the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, it's because they can't keep their mouths shut. You're trying to get a whole bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds at Summer League to not talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So, Call of Duty's kind of an enigma. Other things that could show up here, I feel like I just got to put my clown nose on for this one because I've said it for like 3 straight events now. Double Fine, where are you at? Where's Double Fine?
Yeah.
I feel like Double Fine needs to have their next game here. Whether it comes out this year or not is irrelevant. I feel like they got to show up here. If they're not here this year, I'm officially worried about them.
I mean, Psychonauts was what, 5 years ago at this point?
4 years. 4 years. 4 years in August.
Like, and I mean, I know they're
and Tim Schafer said this was going to be a much smaller game, and that it was already in development before Psychonauts came out. So I say I'm worried, and I'm not worried about like the creativity there or the people. I'm worried about the corporate interests of Microsoft, because the whole reason they wanted to close Tango, or one of the reasons they wanted to close down Tango, was Hi-Fi Rush was going to take like 3 or 4 years to make, and they said that was too long. They wanted games that could be made in 2 years. From some of these smaller studios, and they wanted shorter development times on games. And if you're Double Fine and you're pushing 4 years for a game that is smaller than Psychonauts 2, I start getting worried. Now, we do know they're doing a Brutal Legend remaster this year. I believe that officially got announced.
I heard about it because I feel like Jack Black was kind of talking about it on the Minecraft rounds recently, or like he mentioned it or something. I don't know if I'm making that up or not, but
I feel like this is a thing, and I don't remember. Like, am I going crazy? I really, really, really feel like this was a thing.
No, I feel like it was a thing. I feel like I heard about it at some point.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is a thing, question mark? No? I don't know. I don't fucking know, dude. Maybe it was an April Fool's thing. I feel like this was an April Fool's thing.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It definitely, it's definitely a double. It's an April Fool's thing, unfortunately.
Dang.
I absolutely thought this was real too.
Yeah, I thought it was
I'm bummed. I thought that was real, but no, it was something that got a lot of traction on Twitter, apparently. That also like probably has so many licensing issues with the music and whatnot. So
yeah,
I feel like Double
yeah,
Fine
but they also like they're doing. They got all the music for Tony Hawk. You tell me they can't go get some licenses?
Well, so most of the Tony Hawk soundtrack, funny enough, is like brand new. Tony Hawk curated it himself. Like, there's a few very notable songs that are in there, but
the new one.
Yeah, on 3.4, a lot of it is brand new music.
Jeez.
Yeah,
I haven't been paying that much attention to it because I just assumed it was going to be more of the same. So I'm like, I'm down for more Tony Hawk, but I didn't know the music was kind of different.
Oh yeah, it's new. It's new music. So, do we put egg on our face here and say Everwild makes its grand reappearance? Rare has to have something. Like, I'm sorry. There's no way that game is not further along, or that you've only been doing Sea of Thieves for like 4 years and you've just scrapped Everwild at this point.
Right.
I feel like it's got to be here. It's got to show up at some point.
Yeah, I feel like it's time.
It's a question of what shows up first, this or Contraband, if it's still happening. Avalanche hasn't put out a game since Just Cause 4.
Yeah, Avalanche.
But like,
I
do you
I bet
can
I
Contraband even come out like knowing GTA 6 is on the horizon? Can that
right.
even be a thing anymore?
What if it's? I mean, what if it's just shadow dropped because we got to get it out? You know, like what if
Oh
it's one
my
of those
god.
things?
I feel like a Double Fine game would be prime for a shadow drop. We've said that for a while too. I really thought
Yeah,
they were going to hold Towerborn and do it at the showcase like that. That kind of feels like they're burying it too, because South of Midnight just came out. Expedition 33 is coming out at the end of this month, and then a week later, they're like, "Oh yeah, here we've had this massive collaboration, like to get Clear Obscura out the door. Here's Towerborn in early access for Xbox. Finally, like 8 months later,
right.
and it's 2 weeks before Doom to Dark Ages. That feels like a game that they are just ready to bury. I've heard,
Yep,
and because it's only available, I think it's only available on Game Pass PC. I don't think it's been available for purchase on Steam or anything yet.
interesting.
If it has been purchasable on Steam, I have heard nobody talk about this game. Not a single soul. We heard people who were playing it at events were like, "This is a good, fun game."
Yeah,
So that's going to show up here with some kind of update.
I wonder if it's like I wonder if it's just like completely broken and they just don't know how to fix it or something. Because
I don't know. It is this team's first multiplayer game. This is the Banner Saga studio.
right,
So this is their first multiplayer game. Kind of wonder how that's going to go. But again, like the people who played it that I've seen impressions from at, because it's been at Gamescom 2 years running, have been like, "Hey,
right,
this is fun. Like I
yeah,
can't wait to play this." And then I just heard nothing once it was out.
right.
So I think this coming out with summer on the horizon could be good for it. It being on Game Pass obviously is good. It's going into early access. Maybe it'll help the sting of not getting Hades 2 anytime soon on Xbox.
Yeah, Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 exclusive, timed exclusive, everybody.
Is it coming to Switch 1? Did we get that confirmation?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
they confirmed it.
Okay. I
It's
knew
going to run
Switch
at a
2,
lower
but
frame rate, but
ugh.
apparently, and
Ew.
obviously lower resolution. But
I mean, this also shouldn't be surprising because Hades 1 did this.
yeah,
So that was obviously a really, really powerful partnership for them. Our friend A1 Johnny of Tower Casuals bought a Switch just to play Hades. So
I believe it. I feel like a lot of people did it
mhm.
at that. I mean, it was almost like the indie version of Animal Crossing moment.
Yeah, that was like, I feel like that's where, like, I mean, indie games were in the mainstream consciousness, but I feel like that's where people were like, people who don't normally pay attention to indies were like, "Oh shit."
hmm
It
Yeah,
was like a Dark Souls moment almost, or like an Elden Ring to Dark Souls moment for me.
right.
Uh,
So yeah, speaking of indie games, so obviously everybody's waiting for Silk Song, right?
yeah, let's get some third party predictions out. I think we kind of
So
exhausted what first party can be here.
yeah, so I remember so Nintendo showed it first, but
Yep,
I remember when Xbox showed it and said it was coming to Game Pass day one, and
yep,
that they were getting it first.
yep. There have been so many things that have changed with Silk Song over the years
Right.
that I don't even know if Team Cherry knows what's going on anymore.
That's so
I
sad.
think it is coming. I think it's going to be on Switch and Xbox the same day, but it's going to be on Game Pass.
Right.
Obviously, it's coming to Game Pass right away. If that's there, that's instantly your biggest indie game of the show. Instantly.
Yeah.
So I do think Silk Song is here. I'm ready to put on my clown nose if it's not, but Team Cherry is swearing it's coming this year. They're swearing.
I mean, they just at the
We heard this
Nintendo
3 years
Direct,
ago, though.
like 2 weeks ago, it said 2025 at the
I
end.
know, but also remember it was in 2022 when Microsoft did that whole, "Hey, everything you're seeing here is coming out in the next 12 months."
Yep.
and that was one of the games there, and it was like that and Stalker were like the two games that didn't come out.
Hmm.
I really feel like this is we're probably gonna have to put our clown noses on, but I'm gonna say Silk Song is there. Persona 4 remastered feels like a guarantee at this point.
I mean, that seems like a shoe in, honestly.
That seems like a shoe-in given the relationship with Microsoft and Sega. I'm gonna say it. I think Jet Grind Radio is here.
What
Sega's slowly been showing games at every single showcase for the last like
Mhm.
6 months. You had Virtua Fighter at the
Yeah.
Game Awards. You had the Shinobi game at PlayStation. You had, I mean, it was just Yakuza Zero, but you had Yakuza Zero at
Hmm.
Nintendo. I feel like in terms of the remakes, this is the one that people really, really, really want.
Hmm.
And it has the history with Xbox that it just doesn't have with the other two.
Right.
I would wager Keeley has another game to show from them. Maybe I joked about it for the Nintendo Direct, but I really do think Crazy Taxi is getting close to being revealed also because they said they're doing a new Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Nintendo also has the partnership where they get to show basically every single Sonic game.
Yeah.
So
I
Sonic
also
is
feel like,
basically a Nintendo character at this point.
yeah, but I also feel like, and this is coming from a Nintendo fan, I feel like Nintendo has too much control over what they show because, like,
Yeah.
a lot of times, like, they won't, like, I feel like when they want to show, like, a third party game coming to their console, obviously, aside from, like, the spotlight stuff that they did during the Switch 2 Direct,
Hmm.
like a normal Direct, like, they won't they won't even acknowledge that it's coming to their console until they announce it, right? Like the companies aren't allowed to announce that it's coming there. Like sometimes even the other first parties aren't allowed to say it's coming there. Like
I
it's
think a
just
lot of that is just like, let's be honest, when third party games come to, when the few that came to the Wii U and the ones that came to the Wii and the ones that came to the Switch were all underpowered and lower resolution, worse frame rates, worse performance than what you were
I
getting
don't know. I
on.
still think it's the best place to play Doom.
I hate you so much. I just have indescribable burning hatred for you. I want you to know that. Uh,
Uh,
and I think that probably factors into it also because like Nintendo doesn't want to promise that things are going to come if they're not going to run well. Like I'll tell you, I'm really encouraged hearing about how Cyberpunk and Elden Ring were running supposedly.
yeah.
Cyberpunk did have a hands-on at the Switch 2 press event last week, and at
Hmm.
docked, it was running 1080p 30 frames, which is great
Yeah.
for a
I heard it.
Nintendo console.
I heard it has like a performance mode
Yes, that is performance mode.
that wasn't implemented in it wasn't in the demo
Yeah.
that they showed in the Nintendo store. So or
The one
whatever.
that and everything I was seeing when they got to play it in handheld, it was 720 at 40 frames, which
Hmm.
for Cyberpunk, that might be a little rough, but pretty much everyone was like it was a smooth experience. If you can get that game running even at 1080 30 frames docked, that is great.
Yeah,
I
I'm
still think technically for a console game, that's probably one of the 3 or 4 most demanding console games right now.
oh yeah. I think it's cool though that it's coming with the DLC though.
I you had to. You had the fact that that
Yeah.
is going to be like 60, $70 though is just horrendous. It's the Switch tax.
I mean it's still that
I
on
hate that.
Xbox. Like the bundle is still that
It
on
goes on
Xbox.
sale all the time though. Like here's
Right,
the
but I
thing.
mean if you were
If
to
this
pay
was
full
coming to
price.
all consoles on the same day, I would have less of a problem with it. The fact that this is a bundle that's been available for 2 years now and it's going to be $70 is just bad.
Yeah, but I mean, this happened. This is always Nintendo's thing.
I
When the
know,
game
and
comes
that's why I
late,
don't
it's
like it.
always. I mean, Watch Dogs was $60 on Wii U
I
when it
know.
had been out for 8 months on the other consoles, and it was already $20. Mass
I
Effect
know.
3 was $60 when they put out the trilogy for
Yeah.
$50 on PS3 and Xbox 360. Right? Like it's just always been this way.
It's always been this way. It's annoying. I don't like it. My I think that Respawn's next Star Wars game is here also. It's getting formally revealed next weekend at Celebration Japan.
Ooh,
which is a hell of a
I did
place
not
to
know
announce
that.
an RTS, but okay.
I did not know that was being announced there.
Yes,
Oh, it's
that
it's an
it has a
RTS?
full panel and is being revealed there. Screenshots have already leaked out of it. That will be there and announced. I would wager that that shows up here. Respawn and Xbox just have a great partnership. EA
Yeah.
seems very content to just let things get announced there. We don't know yet if EA is doing their own event this year. I would say that they probably are. My guess would be if you don't see the RTS game at Xbox, maybe, and I don't know why you would do this, but maybe Jedi 3 is shown here. But I don't
That'd be
know why
cool.
you would do that here and not at Celebration.
Yeah. When is Celebration Japan?
April 18th. 18th through the 20th.
Yeah, I mean, you could tease it there. I mean, you could show it there and do like a like
Yeah.
you know how they always say don't show the public, but here's this, right?
So
And
the
then all that
RTS is getting a
cell
full
phone footage
panel.
always.
It's getting a full panel that will be streamed online. That has been confirmed.
Right. I meant
Every panel there is getting streamed because they're not announcing a new movie or anything.
right. I meant like the Jedi, the new Jedi game.
So I don't think the Jedi game is there. Uh, my, I guess what I'm trying to say is Jedi 3 could be at the Xbox showcase, but my reasoning is I don't know why you would show that there and not have that be the game instead of the RTS at Celebration. Save the RTS
Yeah.
for an Xbox show and show off Jedi 3 there. I Jedi so because from Fallen Order to Jedi Survivor was 3 years and some change. They pumped that game out,
Hmm.
and it
Yeah.
was one of the best games of the year. So if you follow that same trajectory, that pegs you at probably next fall as Jedi 3. So maybe
Hmm.
it's probably a little too soon to announce it. It could just be a quick CG of like, witness the end of Cal Kestis, blah blah blah, and like just him like his new character model igniting his lightsaber or something. Like
Yeah.
you could do that. They've done a good job at keeping the Jedi games under wraps until they're ready to like say we're in final polishing. They've done a really
Right.
good job with that. Also, I feel like they're starting to, similar to how Sony has that relationship with Marvel, I think that Xbox is starting to develop that with Lucasfilm. Not just because of the success of Indiana Jones, but they had the reveal of Outlaws. They've had both Jedi games on their stage. Obviously, this goes back years and years and years with the Knights of the Republic games.
Hmm.
So I think there is a pathway to seeing something Star Wars here. It's just a question of like, and the RTS is the obvious answer. I'll never stop
Yeah.
wishing and praying for KOTOR 3, but that's a pipe dream at this point. If that got announced, you would hear my shrieks all the way from Texas. I would just be
Yeah.
sobbing. I would be sobbing. And that's why it
Yeah.
won't happen.
That's why it won't happen.
One final one that I want to get out there before we kind of bounce, because third party is always so hard to predict because there's almost always new third party games shown off here, and obviously indies are just never, you can never predict the indies.
Right.
I guess it's two or three final thoughts. I guess I predicted it last year. I don't know how you could consciously come out and announce a Persona 4 remake and not have Persona 6 on stage. I just don't know how that works. It's been almost 10 years since 5 came out in Japan. It's time.
Right.
It's time. I'm
Right.
sorry. It's time. Maybe you have another triple header of, oh, here's a remake, here's a brand new game, and here's some DLC for Metaphor. I think that would be kind of a shoe in. I mean, you could even dump one of those off at Game Awards time, or at
Hmm.
the Keeleys. You could put something out at the Keeleys. Maybe Metaphor DLC is part of the Nintendo Direct or something like, hey, Metaphor Complete Edition is coming to the Switch too.
Right.
Um, I think that feels like, in terms of what I'm going to say, that feels like not most likely, but like kind of in the middle. I think a Final Fantasy VII remake announcement is a shoe in here. I think it has to be. It just got announced for the Switch 2. There's no way you don't come out and say on stage at Xbox's show, hey, here's 7 Remake this year. Next year, you're getting Rebirth.
Right.
Because let's be honest, Rebirth is going to really struggle to run on the Switch 2. That game had problems running on the base PS5 at times. So, whereas Remake is a PS4 game.
So here's my only light, and I mean extremely light pushback on that, is that Nintendo purchased a porting porting and optimization studio based in Miami, I think.
Mm-hmm.
About a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago at this point. So they could help third-party developers optimize for the Switch 2.
Sure.
Like they actually made like a statement about it, because they knew that like their architecture was different. Mm-hmm. Regardless of power, their architecture is just different, right? And so
yeah, it's all custom.
They have to account for that. So, I mean, again, that's a very, very light pushback. I know, like,
I feel like Rebirth, even if Rebirth does come to Switch 2, because I mean, hey, there's nothing that says that it can't be one of those games that when you play it, it's like, hey, you're gonna have to play this docked.
Yeah.
And I don't think Nintendo would ever let it get to a point where, hey, it has to be docked to play a game.
Right. But so how does it run on Steam Deck? That game's out on Steam Deck, right? Or on Steam?
Yeah,
I
it
guess,
is out on Steam Deck, and I just have I don't know about the performance of it, honestly, off the top of my head. I think it had problems though.
Okay. I wasn't sure, so I just I didn't know if you knew or not, because I'm
okay,
such a huge PC gamer.
Steam Deck subreddit. Or excuse me. I was going to click on that, but I'm going to back up because there was something better that I saw. Steam Deck HQ.
Ooh,
Steam
friend
Deck
of show.
HQ.
Shout out to Noah and the team.
I want to see what they specifically talk about. They're reviewing the fucking game, and I don't want that. Okay, Steam Deck performance. Here we go. Put this release in perspective. This is a massive open JRPG with high fidelity. Minimum system requirements require 16 gigs of RAM and a more powerful GPU than what the deck can handle, aka an NVIDIA 2060. This is not a game I expected to be playable at anything above 30 FPS, if at all. However, Square did mention they were optimizing for the Steam Deck. It's playable on the Steam Deck, but there are caveats. It is playable at 30 frames throughout the game, and I find that insane given the scale of the entry. Running around the open areas and combat all held strong and stable. You can play and enjoy if you only have a Steam Deck, but some big sacrifices are made to keep the game stable. Dynamic resolution is enabled to keep the game at 30 frames, which meant it does look pixelated when running around fast, especially in crowded areas and cities, and there is blurriness in faces here and there. Most cutscenes look amazing and aren't as effective, but it is noticeable. There is bad ghosting, but you can't tell as much unless you look closely at Cloud or when in front of some objects. Changing settings did not alleviate either issue. There is also no upscaling we can use on the Steam Deck. You should expect frame rate drops within towns. The lowest I saw while running around was a drop to 24 FPS, but it could be worse depending on the town you're in. Paired with blurriness, I dreaded spending time in towns. There is also serious model pop-ins, which means part of the world, like rocks and plants, will randomly appear out of nowhere, mostly in open world sections. It can happen in towns. It's not as pronounced. Models will overextend. Some of these screenshots are rough. Oof. So I'll say this. If Nintendo's porting studio is working on this in conjunction with Square, maybe it's doable, but this is going to be a rough one. This is going to be a real rough one. And I think that kind of bodes for what we expect for Series S in a lot of ways. I know different architectures and all that. The Steam Deck Steam Deck and Switch 2 are a little bit behind the Series S, not by a lot, but by just enough that I think that with the different architectures, it could prove to be a problem.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Admittedly, we're getting into territory that I have no idea.
Yeah, I also think like with the popularity of these handheld PCs, and obviously the Switch 2 is going to be a little bit, on the
Hmm.
level of those. I feel like more third parties are going to start optimizing for those types of devices anyway.
I think so too. It's
Um,
just hard to go back to a game that's already out and already struggled on the base PS5. Like the fact that people are like, "Yeah,
right,
you need a pro to run this game the correct way," is
right.
that doesn't bode well. But I think that that may mean that they're going to look at part three a little bit differently. The one
Hmm.
that I actually could see more going into this handheld space is going to be 16.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit different in terms of scalability. It's also like the open world is more like in sections there, I guess I would say.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, but final thing that I think there's like a 5% chance that this happens only because there is history of this franchise being there is the proper GTA reveal at the Xbox showcase.
Yeah, I would imagine Microsoft would fork the money over for that.
What, like, how much do you think Microsoft would have to pay for the marketing for this? And would that be if they're paying for the marketing to have the Xbox logo on fucking everything for this? Keep in mind, GTA 5 did just come back to Game Pass. Is there the possibility that Microsoft forks out to get the Xbox logo all over this shit and just pays the money? Can Peter Moore come out and reveal a tattoo for GTA 6?
So I would say it would be worth it only because even if it doesn't like push consoles at
The
all,
brand visibility.
it's brand visibility, and you want people, especially like casual players, to know that it's still coming to your platform,
Yeah.
right? Because like a lot of casual people, like I know some people who like barely play video games, and they hear some of the stuff that's happening with Xbox, and they're like, "So, is Xbox going away or something?" And
Yep. Yep.
I'm like, no, but it's kind of a complicated situation to explain to somebody who's not like deep into games. But
Mm-hmm.
I said I think Xbox is leaning more into a PC style of
100%. 100%.
thing, right? That's what I tell them. Um, I said Xbox is still going to exist. It's just not going to be like a traditional style console that you think of.
And I mean they have a history of showing mega third party games.
Hmm.
Keep in mind their one more thing, and this was years and years and years ago, was the very first look at Cyberpunk,
Hmm.
which looked almost nothing like that in the final game.
Right.
They showed they had that huge partnership with Cyberpunk and with Witcher 3. Elden Ring was originally announced at no, it was not announced at an X. Yes, it was. It was announced at an Xbox thing originally. The very first CG trailer we ever got for it was announced at Xbox.
Yeah, it was that like Ring of Fire thing that
Hmm.
they showed,
Hmm.
right?
It was when they announced George R. R. Martin was part of it.
Right. But
Uh,
and everybody thought it was Dark Souls 4 at first
yeah.
because of the Ring of Fire.
Well, that or we were like, oh my god, is this a Game of Thrones game? Um, in recent years, they've kind of moved away from the mega third party announcements and leaned more into like the hey, let's get these other communities involved in our platform, like Persona and Yakuza. Um, the Kojima game announcement, the Riot partnership. Like they've kind of leaned into that in recent years. Last year, they really only had two or three big third party games, or like, commercially big third party games, I should say. And that was Veilguard and Shadows were both there.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
year before was the reveal for Outlaws, like we said. So I do wonder if they're going to have a big game. Like, if you're going, because they have enough that they could do an entire show of just first party stuff at this point, honestly. First party stuff, some
Yeah.
indies, and I think everyone would walk away happy from that
I
show.
mean, they've got first party lineup equal to Nintendo's at this point, right? In terms of the sheer amount.
And the only
Uh,
reason that you're not seeing more of it this year is twofold: it's GTA 6 and it's the Switch 2.
mhm.
Because I think everybody remembers what Nintendo did in 2017 in terms of just for that first year, they had a game like every 6 weeks. Now, not all of them were on the level of Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey, but they didn't have to be. You had
Right.
four of your games in the first year were Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, and Mario Odyssey. You didn't need anything else to be a banger.
And Xenoblade 2, right? I
I
mean,
forget
that's
Xenoblade Chronicles 2, honestly. I really forget that that was a first year
yeah,
game.
yeah. I mean,
And that's no
they literally
disrespect.
had a
I genuinely forget that that's a
no,
first year game.
no, I get it, but they literally had a game every month, right?
Yeah.
Even like when they didn't have a Switch game, they had a 3DS game, right? Like
Yeah.
that I remember that May they were really pushing that weird Street Fighter 2 HD port of whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but they also had Fire Emblem on 3DS. And then like that
Yeah.
September they were pushing something, but then on 3DS they had Metroid, right? That
You had the
is
Bayonetta collection
Samus
come
Returns.
over towards the end of year one. You had
Yeah,
Kirby
I mean they
Star
had a lot of stuff.
Allies.
Yeah,
I guess let's
Hyrule
shift into a little bit
Warriors,
of
I
Switch 2
think.
talk real quick. Uh,
Sure. Did you see the
because
good news though? Did you see the news today though?
that they have like 1 million units in the US already.
No, no,
Oh,
the
there's other good
that
news.
yeah. So everybody was concerned that Switch 2 game like the Switch 2 versions of games were going to be the Switch 1 versions with the download code of the update of the upgrades.
Uh huh.
Nintendo released a statement today that said all Switch 2 versions all physical Switch 2 versions of Switch 1 games will not include a download code. It is all on the cartridge. So
Interesting.
Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Metroid, what was the other one that they announced? Mario Party, and Pokemon ZA all are Switch 2 versions directly on the cartridge. So I mean, Nintendo needed a win. So that seems like a decent one, even though some of them are like 70 and $80, right?
Oh,
So
God, that's a whole and that's part of the reason why I want to bring up the Switch 2 is because this has bigger implications for gaming as a whole at this point.
mhm,
You and I did and we're not gonna go too deep on Switch 2. We did a whole recap last week after the Nintendo Direct,
mhm,
over on the Powblock channel. So go check that
mhm,
out. But the mouse functionality I think is stellar for this console. I think this is really cool. This is going to make games like Age of Empires coming over so much easier
mhm.
because they showed
Yeah.
Civ 7 running like that. But on top of that, what got me really excited because this was not a function of it I had thought about before. Metroid Prime 4 having shooting functionality via the mouse function.
Mhm.
That is a game changer.
Yeah. They
That
showed it
is a
off during
potential game changer
Treehouse,
for getting
which
shooters on this console.
well, you know what else it has besides just the mouse controls for Metroid and the mouse controls in general? They were showing this off during Treehouse with the whatever that the tech demo that's not really a tech demo but should have been the
Welcome
pack-in
to the
game.
Switch or whatever it's called. Yeah.
The welcome tour, right? Yeah. Well, like the mouse, not only can you use it as like a first person shooter control, but like they were showing Samus like leaning when you tilted the mouse or the Joy-Con as the mouse. Like if
I
you
love
tilted
that.
it left, she
I
would
love
lean
that so
left.
much.
Yeah, and they were showing like it's doing more than just an average mouse control. Bill Trennan was talking about it. For those who don't know, Bill Trennan's like the big head of translation over there at
Hmm.
Treehouse, and he was talking about it. He said, "Yeah, we wanted if we said we wanted to do monk when they said they wanted to do mouse functionality, they said they wanted to do like something different with mouse functionality."
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of like it's almost kind of like the gyro controls when they added that to Splatoon
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
2 or whatever. What
And
it
the best
reminds
part
me
is
of.
this is all optional.
Yeah.
So I think that's just really cool for innovation too. Like they pop off
Mhm.
magnetically. Remains to be seen how strong those magnets are. I'm a little concerned. I hope there's
Mhm.
like a button that I can like press to like lock them in or something because I'm afraid for
There
when I
is.
get too into a game.
There is.
Okay,
There's a
I
lock on
missed
it.
like all the treehouse stuff, so
Yeah. No, there's a lock on it. So you pop them in, right? And they click like
sure,
the ones on the Switch 1, right? But like there's also like a lock button on the back that you press in, and then there's a button that you press to unlock it, and then they pop
sure.
off. So,
I think
um,
I think the functionality of the Joy Cons is really really cool. Like I'm gonna meme game chat into the end of the world. This is Discord on your phone, but in
mhm.
2025. It's like they found the Discord alpha from like 2011 and said, "Yeah, let's put this into the console," and like are just completely unaware of how Discord is in 2025.
It came in that deal with all those Samsung screens they bought on
Dude,
clearance
this
because
it's
Samsung wasn't
so
using them
bad.
anymore.
It's genuinely so bad, and I couldn't believe they spent like 10 minutes on it. It
Yeah.
was just like that whole sequence was just so bad. Like it's funny because like I actually think that like the way that people were talking in it wasn't bad. It actually felt like how people would really talk and not just like, oh yeah, we gotta go tactical left, blah blah blah, like in the
Oh,
division
like they used to
demo.
do in like Rainbow Six,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. How bad that used to
yeah,
be. This felt like it was like actually real.
yeah,
And then you just so
yeah. By the way, fun fact about me. So you know how their whole thing during that was press C to chat.
oh god, yes.
Guess who registered the domain in every single social media platform? Press C to chat.
You.
This guy.
Jesus. The cuck button, as
uh,
our friend Ray calls it.
yeah.
I
Well,
uh I wasn't surprised when Xbox wasn't there in a very big way. Tony Hawk being there probably should have just been considered a layup, considering we already knew it was coming to Switch One. But it was still nice to like see a little bit of support there.
yeah.
Tom Warren was on the Xbox Plus Two podcast. I've
Hmm.
got a translation here from an episode they did right before the reveal. It was a couple days before the reveal, where Tom said that he doesn't know if the full Master Chief collection is going to come to Switch and PlayStation. Um, and
What? I
says,
mean,
I don't think it'll have every game. That's the most I can say on it. My thinking is it's probably just the trilogy. I
yeah,
really can't.
interesting
If
choice.
you're gonna start cutting games out, let's be honest. Halo 2 Anniversary, because we don't know if this is coming to Switch 1 and Switch 2. That's the biggest caveat here. I should say that. They did not specify. The rumor has long been that it was going to be Switch 1. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if Switch 1 can run Halo 2 Anniversary. I actually really think it's going to struggle to run Halo 2 Anniversary. That was only ever released for PC and Xbox One.
Hmm.
So Switch 1 may struggle on that. If you make this only Switch 2, you could do it. And I think at that point, then that gives you the green light to include things like Halo. But Halo 4 was also a 360 game. So, and it looked damn good on the 360. Maybe it's
Hmm.
just the four mainline games. Maybe you leave out Reach, ODST, and the Halo 2
Well,
Anniversary Edition.
well, remember on PC when they like rolled them out one by one?
I do, unfortunately.
Maybe that could be what they're doing.
It could be, but I think that what we need the clarification here on is it coming just to Switch 2? If it's coming just to Switch 2, I think you get the whole thing. If it has to run on Switch 1, which I imagine Microsoft does not have game dev kits for Switch 2 just yet. They might now that the official reveal has happened. I think like Blizzard having them or Activision
Hmm.
Blizzard having them is a little different. They probably used their specific porting studio to work on this.
Hmm.
Um, it makes me wonder if this is just going to be the trilogy initially and then they'll release games like you said on a rolling basis to update it over time, or like, hey, you have a Switch 2, you can play Halo 2 Anniversary on here.
Right.
The other
I'm
thing
just trying to figure out which games they would leave out
the
at
other
this point.
I mean, I think that leaving out ODST and Reach would be the two quickest ones to leave out just because they're not Master Chief's Journey.
Right.
My other thinking is when he says it's not, look, maybe not the complete collection, is leave out Firefight, leave out, because remember how bad the multiplayer was on Xbox One for like 3 years with this?
Hmm.
I genuinely don't know if that's going to work handheld
Or on Nintendo's online service in
or on
general.
Nintendo's online services. Like, those are two very real concerns for me. They probably would want
Right.
cross-platform, like PlayStation. If it does come to PlayStation, PlayStation's getting the whole shebang. They're getting the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think even Switch 2, I don't know if they're going to get the whole thing. They may just get the campaigns, which I think would be really underwhelming for a lot of people. But At the same time, you have to understand you're buying a Nintendo console, and this is the trade-off that comes with that, is kind of shitty online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I wonder if they learned though. I wonder if they've finally done something.
the thing I think is the layup collection for them, though, is if they do a Gears collection, because all three of those games are 360 games.
Yeah, and the rumor already is that the Gears collection, the rumored one for Xbox anyway, is not going to have the multiplayer stuff.
Yes, the rumor
It's
is
only
it's
going
just
to,
the campaigns, and that it is coming to PS5 as well.
yeah. Well,
So
they said competitive multiplayer. I think they're still going to include horde mode, but like, would you include 2 and 3, or would you just pick one? Please be 2. Please be Gears 2 horde mode.
I think it has
Gears
to be
3
Gears
is,
2. Gears 2 Horde mode is like what people remember.
yeah. I just
That would
remember
be my
people
guess.
not really caring
And I
about
think
the
that's
upgrades
different.
they
That's
made
like
to
a
Gears 3.
firefight style experience.
Right. Right.
So I think that would go over better than like, so if that's choppy, people are just like, ah, okay, whatever. Like at least it wasn't like they didn't try to cram the whole multiplayer suite in.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, what else was I gonna say? I mean, the mouse functionality gives me further hope that I think Age of Mythology is a layup to come to Switch 2 this year.
Yeah,
We've
I think
heard from,
anything
I think anything
tactics, like
mouse
I mean,
related.
yeah, I mean, I think Gears Tactics might be a layup.
Oh, Gears Tactics, that's a good one. God,
That
could
would
you
be
imagine the
awesome.
outrage if Gears Tactics is the one and not the collection?
I no, I mean, I
I
don't
think people might lose their ever loving minds over that.
see.
And
I
I
don't.
love Gears Tactics.
I think Gears Tactics is awesome.
Gears Tactics is arguably the best Gears game
I
in the last several years.
I don't I don't know if people would really care unless like the collection didn't come to Xbox at all, right? Like I don't know. I don't think people care as much as I would want them to about Gears.
Yeah.
Uh because I'm pretty sure I was like the only person upset that they weren't going straight to 6.
I mean I kind of am too, but I understand the angle of like Arcus and Dom reunited before the actors get
Sure.
too old.
Right.
Um The only way that bringing the collection to other platforms makes sense for me, though, if you're doing either of these, if you're doing Halo or Gears, is that you're gearing up to put, no pun intended, you're gearing up to put those next entries on those platforms, which I think it's just a matter of time now that Forza has made the jump. But I still think that's kind of like Halo is going to be like the last thing they do that with.
Yeah,
The
Halo's going to
doing a
be
CE remake is one thing, putting the next Halo game on there in general is another thing entirely.
yeah.
So, but at the same time, like PlayStation can't seem to make a decent first-person shooter to save their lives. So,
Hmm.
the last thing I wanted to say about the Switch 2, these game prices. It's really bad. It's really fucking bad. 80
I don't see
we
I don't care. I think people are blowing it out of proportion,
I
to
don't
be
think people
honest
are
with you.
blowing this out of proportion at all. I This is the argument that Ed and I got into on our recap show. I
I think there's one $80 game that they're going to support for 10 years for
I
free.
still think it's a problem.
Sounds okay to me.
I still think it's a problem because not Nintendo in themselves. I think it's, for me, it's
No.
more that Nintendo is the first one doing this.
Yeah.
Because now that opens the floodgate. Because publishers were reluctant to do 70 in general, it seemed, unless you were EA or 2K, then you were just doing it willy-nilly. I think this opens up the door. We all thought GTA was going to be the one to do this. And I think this is simply Nintendo getting ahead of the curve. My problem is you just said this is going to be a game that'll be supported for 10 years. Fine, sure, whatever. There's inevitably going to be DLC for this game. The total price is going to be like over $100 to play everything on this, I'm sure. My problem is this is a game that is going to sell like 70, 80 million units without even blinking. You can
Mm-hmm.
afford to price that a little bit more reasonably to get people in the door, and then price. I would actually price your games like Zelda or something like that, your more premium titles. That's where I would do the price, because I think the common consumer looks at this and goes, why do I need to pay $80 for Mario Kart? That has been the overwhelming thing I have had from very casual Nintendo fans over the last week is, why do I need to pay $80 for Mario Kart? Don't they sell enough copies of this? Can't they afford to give a bitch a break, essentially? That's why I think that this bundle with the Mario Kart, they're saying that that is a limited time bundle. I would not be shocked to see that just be a full-time thing on the shelves.
They also said the Mario Kart 8 bundle was limited, and it was
Oh, I know.
it was out for
We
8
all
years.
know the holiday Mario Kart bundle stories. I'm saying I don't think that this is like, you want to make some goodwill in the eyes of the public, especially with all the tariff bullshit going on. Make this a more permanent thing. I'm gonna be honest, like, I am one of those people. I will be buying the Mario Kart bundle because I
Mhm.
have the means to do that.
Yeah.
$500 for the console and a game gets me in the door. I don't love the idea of having to buy the console plus an $80 game plus a Switch Online membership on top of that. If I'm somebody that's coming into this new, or someone who hasn't bought a Nintendo console since the launch Switch, that's a
Mhm.
pretty steep thing for me to swallow when the price of my groceries, my insurance, car repairs, things like that are all starting to go through the roof, and the economy's in a way different place than it was 8 years ago. That's a big ask, I think, for a lot of folks. And that's the only
Sure.
reason why I'm mad about Nintendo specifically doing this. I would be railing against any company. It's that Nintendo, I feel, yes, their games are always priced like 50, $60, but Nintendo does a wide price range of games. And we meme them all the time for not discounting them, but they've never been, to me, they've never been egregiously priced. Outside of that Mario collection, that was an egregious price. $60 for that was a ripoff.
I don't even remember how much I didn't even know how
I
remember
believe it
how
was
much it cost.
$60. If I was wrong, somebody let me know. But I believe it was $60, and that was a ripoff to me, with no improvements whatsoever, et cetera, et cetera. So just the fact that it's Nintendo doing this, like if it was GTA doing this, yes, I would be mad, and I would call it extremely greedy if GTA was doing this. I want to be super clear. But it's and I get the argument of games are so expensive to make now, but I think this is also where, like, Sean Layden and Shuhei Yoshida have both been kind of rallying on this over the last several months. Games have to get cheaper. We have to make more affordable games for people because you have to look at how the world economy is right now. And I get that. Like, the average gamer buys 3 games a year. And most of the time it's like Call of Duty, Madden, and something else. That's why Elden Ring selling 20 million copies was such a big deal. That's why the attach rate for Mario Kart is such a big deal. Like, and I love that the justification I've seen from some folks, not obviously not you, but some folks is, well, there's game share. Yeah, you have to buy another $450 console minimum because that price is probably going up.
Yeah.
Whether it's this year or next year, it's going up.
Yeah.
And that, I think, when all that is combined, I don't love the meme I've seen going around of, well, you can just buy a Steam Deck with the same specs for the same for $50. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, you. It's the same argument we make about every console, though. You can only play Nintendo games here. You can only play PlayStation games on a
Mhm.
PlayStation. This isn't an Xbox situation. I will be in the
Yeah,
fucking ground before Mario is on Steam.
sure.
So
I
when I
my
consider that, last thing, and then I promise I'll cede the floor. When I consider it as, I only buy like 2 Switch games a year. I am
mhm.
fortunate enough, and I said this on our recap, you said this on our recap, we are fortunate enough to be in a position where $80 for Mario Kart, yes, it may be egregious, but we are fortunate enough to be able to pay that and not have to worry about making ends meet. The
Right, but I also
average
think we're both
consumer with
aiming for the
children
bundle, right?
cannot do that.
Right. Mm,
That's my
I
issue. That is, when Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out, I believe it was 50. It may have been 60. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't. 8
Mario
years
Kart
ago,
8 Deluxe
I have
was
slept and
60.
drank a lot in
Mario
8
Kart
years.
8 was 60
Okay,
on Switch. It was 50 on Wii U, it was 60 on Switch.
and that's, I see, and like, I have problems with that too. But whatever. It's Mario Kart. It's a brand new console you're gonna buy, and that's that. I think therein lies my problem. You're gonna pay it no matter what. It's gonna top NPD, and that's, sure, whatever. But just because something tops NPD doesn't make it right. I think morally there is a problem with a game that you know is going to do banger numbers. And looking at this, when you've only ever had one game priced above $60, and that was Tears of the Kingdom, to jump to 80 is wild. 70, I think I would have probably still complained a little bit, but I would have been like, okay, I get it. It's basically Mario Forza Horizon. I think about it in like where I am, how much time I'm going to put into this. If I was like 12, I'd be begging my parents for this game at $80. And at $80, they'd laugh me out of the room. They'd be like, no, you're getting two $40 games instead. And I think about like, there are a lot of people who will sink a bunch of hours into this.
Mm-hmm.
If it was, I'm going to be honest, like, if it was a different type of game, and this is where I think everybody has their own rationalization. And I don't want to give any sort of ideas to people, but Smash, the next Smash will almost certainly be $80 now. Almost assuredly will be $80. That I could at least defend because I know the hundreds of hours I will play of Smash. I will play the single player, I'll play a lot of multiplayer, the third party licensing that goes into it, the music licensing. That is more defensible to me than pricing a game like this at 80. And I think this opens the door for Pokemon to be that expensive. This opens the door for everybody, not just Nintendo, but for everybody to start pricing games at that. And I think it highlights the importance of things like PlayStation Plus and Game Pass Ultimate now. Because I'm going to be honest, me getting all my Xbox games through Ultimate saves me so much money. It frees up money for me to go play elsewhere and to pay elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super jazzed about wanting to go spend $80 on this game that is never going to go on sale and be like, yeah, I got to get this. Instead, I'm sitting there going, Donkey Kong is going to be 60. I'm getting Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pathway I'm going with this. So yeah, I think it's like a personal thing. Like I have gone on the record of saying I will not spend $80 on GTA. And that's a game that I know with GTA Online, I'll sink hundreds of hours into probably. I don't like how we have so rapidly gone from 60 to 80. Miss me with the inflation bullshit too of like, well, NES games, the way they were priced, like they would have cost us like $200 now. Like that's not the point. That's not the point. Art is very expensive to make these days. I get that, but when we see stories about games like Spider-Man 2 costing $350 million, I know Mario Kart's not costing that. It's costing a fraction of that. Mario Kart's costing maybe like 10% of that. 10%. You're going to
Yeah.
make that money back in 20 minutes. It's greed. It's greedy to me for games like this and GTA to target that high of a price point.
I think overall, right, like, yeah, I'm a little surprised that Nintendo was the first company to do this, right? Especially because they've always been on the opposite side of this, right? Where like their games have always been cheaper than the current generation.
Yep.
And I do agree that this opens the door for everybody else to do it. If
because
not
they see
this
Nintendo
generation,
doing it, the company that never does this.
Yeah. With that said, and I'm not talking about Nintendo here, I'm just talking about game development in general. When games start costing $80, and again, not talking about platform holders, not talking about 2K, but all I see online when I open Twitter or any social media is how companies are closing because they don't sell enough units, or but then you turn around and people are complaining that they have to pay for their games and pay more money for their games, right? And it's like, well, I think you got to pick a side, right? Like, and again, I get it. If you're a parent and you're not into games and you're not like in the weeds, and you see, yeah, that $450 console and an $80 game or $70 game is a sticker shock, is such a sticker shock. And that's why you see these like $70 Amazon Fire tablets fly off the shelves, and with all these free like learning games. For like, my kids have Fire tablets and they play these free PBS learning games all the time, right? And like, you and I, like, again, we're in a position where we can purchase these games, but sometimes like, if I buy like,
consumer cannot.
Right, like if I buy like 2 or 3 games in a month or whatever, or like within a couple of months, my wife's like, you realize how much you're spending on games? I'm like, well, that's how much games cost.
Yep. Same here.
And
Same
like,
here. It was a big stretch for me to be able to do. What was it? We had Monster Hunter Wilds, and then there was something else that came out like a week or two later.
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I bought two, or I bought the upgrade for Avowed so I could play it early, and I could get the premium access. I got that and Monster Hunter Wilds, and after tax, that was like $110. That's a lot for
Hmm.
me to spend on games in a month. Like if a game
Yeah.
is $70, I
I
will
mean,
almost always wait for a sale. And with
yeah,
Nintendo
I mean,
games,
I
you just
bought,
can't do that.
yeah, I mean, I bought Monster Hunter and Xenoblade Chronicles, and that was what,
Oh my god,
130
yeah.
plus tax. So,
Yeah.
uh, but like, I don't, I mean, I know you and I are around the same age, but I am a little bit older than you.
Mhm.
Like, I remember going to Walmart and saving up to buy Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for N64, and it was $95, right?
I dude,
And,
I trust me, I remember. I'm young, but I remember. There is a and I
or
said this
like,
on our show, there is a reason why every kid that was growing up in the 90s or early 2000s remembers having a Game Boy or a DS because they were so affordable.
hmm
They were so affordable. Like my
hmm
parents were so willing to buy me games on the
right.
Game Boy because they were affordable. They were basically like, if you want games for the GameCube, either you're waiting for Christmas or you're going out and mowing lawns.
Yeah, I remember like I mean,
So
when I was on my NES, I had like maybe 7 games for my NES and 3 of them were given to me, right? Or
I think
like, you know,
I got my N64 in 1999
mhm,
and I was 7 years old when I got my N64. I don't think I ever got a brand new game on that console. I was only allowed to buy
mhm,
used games because of how expensive everything was, and it was like even then it was
right,
like you have to wait for the 3 for 50 sale at EB
right,
Games.
right. Or and that's why like renting games was so popular.
Oh my, so that's the other point. I'm really glad you brought this up organically because that's the other thing. Like when I see people talk about the high prices, I'm like, yeah, we also had a thing called Blockbuster and Hollywood Video back then. Family Video, anyone remember Family Video? Like they were
Yeah.
still holding out in Texas until about 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the last one here just closed about 3 years ago.
But let me tell you something. We were able to play a wider variety of games because it was $5 to rent a game for 7 days.
I rented Majora's Mask for like 5 days for like $3.
I
It was
cannot tell you
awesome.
how many times I rented games like Turok 3.
Jeez.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, great thing to let a 7-year-old play, by the way. But I rented so many GameCube games that they would come out because my parents were like, you can get like one or two games. We were not poor. I want to be really clear about that.
Mhm.
Like, I was raised by my grandparents, great, good money, really good with their finances. But their thing was like, if you want more than like a game at your birthday and like a game or two at Christmas, you are going to like you can use your allowance, you can go out and mow lawns, like we'll pay you to go out and do yard work and this and that. Like, you can go mow the neighbors' lawns, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how you're going to get games. I, as a young kid, got into the habit of renting games because we had one of those
Mhm.
blockbusters with a game rush, so we had a whole gaming section
Oh yeah.
and buying used games. I was getting the games a year or two late because they were so much more affordable for me to get. And that trend really continued until I was probably in college. Maybe up until like the Series X, until not Series X, but until like Xbox One came out. I don't think I bought new games very often until then. I would buy like one or two a year, and that was it. And it I think so for like us, we look at that and we're like, okay, the sticker shock is like it's not as bad because we remember paying those prices, but also like, damn, we had an alternative. You could go rent games.
Mhm.
The first platform holder that figures out a way to let you rent a game for like $10 for 5 days is gonna do gangbusters.
Well, I would argue that Game Pass and PlayStation Plus are the replacements for renting
Sure,
games.
sure.
You know, I mean, you'd have
I
to
mean, can
like
I be real?
go to the
I
wall.
still occasionally sign up for GameFly.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, our friends over at Secret Friends Unite, Todd Oxtra, still subscribes to GameFly.
Hmm. Well,
You
it's
know,
great for him. He's got a kid.
yeah, and you know, I'm like, I just remember going to Blockbuster wanting a specific game, and you would go, and the whole wall would be like the advertisement for the game, and they would all be gone, and then you'd have to pick something really stupid like Tonic Trouble or something stupid.
Yeah.
And I would want 1080 snowboarding, and they
Hmm.
wouldn't have it, so I had to rent
it
Twisted
it
Edge.
forced you to play different games, and I feel like we
Mhm,
got such a bigger exposure to games when we were kids because of that.
mhm.
There's games I never would have played on the on the GameCube without that happening. Like that was about the time
Right.
where I was like, oh, I started reading gaming magazines. Like I started reading Game Informer the year that the GameCube came out,
Mhm.
and started being like, oh my god, like I want to play these games. And I remember convincing my parents that because it was on Nintendo, it was family friendly,
Yeah.
and getting in so much trouble because one of the games I got was the Resident Evil remake,
Oh, nice.
and then like Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes.
Yeah.
Like 11 years old getting twin snakes, and like, hey, that'll fuck you up for life. Eternal Darkness, like games of Geist. Remember
Yeah.
Geist?
Oh my. Do I remember Geist? Yeah, man. That game was
So
something.
like when I think about the prices of games, like yeah, I'm sympathetic to the argument of like, well, games would cost so much more these days, and like they used to cost a whole lot more, and like I get that. We also had methods to go play them for like a tenth of the price. And
Yeah.
that's why I still love I love programs like Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. And unfortunately, Nintendo is, I'm sorry, like I love Nintendo. They're never going to do that.
No, I mean,
Switch Online
we're
does not
lucky.
count.
I mean, we're lucky as Nintendo fans that Nintendo Online exists like it does because Nintendo 10 years ago probably wouldn't have done that, right? I mean,
No,
look at the Wii Virtual Console versus the Wii U. They still charged you, right?
dude, the Wii Virtual Console was so goaded.
Yeah.
It was so good. Like it still blows my mind that like and herein lies like, and this is just a bigger problem with game preservation in general. They'll let you stream the games and download them. They won't let you buy them digitally
Hmm.
for their older games. And I think that's why, like, when we think about Xbox going the handheld PC route, and they've been trying to figure out avenues to get your 360 collections onto there,
Hmm.
this highlights a bigger problem of, well, what happens when you move on from like the architecture you've been developing on? Because like if they move into that, that's totally different architecture
Hmm.
from an Xbox.
True,
So,
but
and
when
they've
you
said
look
that
at
that
that,
is a big problem for them.
right? But I think eventually, not now, but I think eventually the technology will outperform the issues and
Sure,
just brute force its way through, right? Like, I mean,
sure.
that's kind of what they're doing now with emulation, right? Like with the original Xbox games, at least, right?
Hmm.
They said they're brute forcing their way through
And that's
because,
why you only have a selection of games.
mhm, yeah, and I
And
mean,
I think like with
and
360,
that's
it's easier and
right.
whatnot because you already had the backwards compatibility work done for Xbox One and it kept the same architecture. Now you're kind of shifting back. I feel like you're shifting more towards a PC architecture, which really is what original Xbox was in a lot of
Mhm.
ways.
Right, and I mean, you see that's the problem that PlayStation is having with PS3. They've
Yeah.
been having it for 2 generations of, like, they are still trying to figure out how to get PC or PS3 emulation working consistently because, the way the cell architecture was broken up, like, every single studio used it differently, whereas, like, obviously the x86 architecture that the Xbox 360 used was kind of like a universal PC style architecture, right? So, like,
Hmm.
it was easier. Uh, but they apparently PlayStation does have PS3 emulation working, but they have to. It's essentially they have to pack a different emulator with every single game because of the way those games work with the PS3, which is crazy to think about. Kind of building an emulator, a different emulator for every game. Man, that's just and I think also like lucky enough that's a lot of the games people liked from that generation have been HD remastered at some point, right? And it's kind of not a worry really anymore because and those games are so old anyway that they are on sale all the time. But still, backwards compatible. Remember when people were like, backwards compatibility is dead and nobody cared? Remember when that was a big argument?
On what?
Backwards compatibility when
Oh
like
yeah.
they tried to argue that nobody cared about backwards compatibility.
Uh huh.
And I mean, Xbox One didn't have it at first either, right? That was the huge deal when they added that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember back to the 360 where you had to download the files to a USB key and plug it into your console.
Hmm.
And that was so overwhelmingly well received, even though those games were pretty janky. Like that was still super well received.
Hmm.
And Microsoft during the Xbox One generation kind of became the face of game preservation.
Hmm.
And so it's really frustrating for me to see a company like Nintendo. Like I'm so excited for Switch Online GameCube, but to launch it with 3 games and to just not let me buy the fucking games. You know how much money they would rake in if they just put like 15 GameCube games up for $10 a piece. You know how much money they would just rake in for
I
minimal
know.
effort, by the way.
Well, that's what I was telling Ed. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
shocked they put GameCube games on there because you look at all the games that have been remastered over time on the
They're all
Switch,
bestsellers.
they're all bestsellers, but like there's like 30 of them and they're all between 40 and $60.
Yeah. And it's like people will pay the Nintendo tax every time, and it blows my mind because like did you see the quote from Nintendo like in the last 24 hours where they said just because Wind Waker is coming to Switch
Hmm.
Online does not mean that Wind Waker HD won't come to Switch 2?
Hmm. Yeah,
Like that is the ultimate like I'm sorry, you guys finally had me signing up for expansion pass and now I'm like, nah, I'm good.
well, it won't be coming out for at least another year. They already
I
have
don't
their
care.
Zelda product this
I
year.
don't care. I think you really underestimate like how cheap and like budget conscious I'm trying to be. Like if I can save $50, I'm
No,
saving $50.
no,
I have to buy a family membership.
I get it.
Yeah.
I,
So
I
like I'd rather spend that $50 on 3 months of Game Pass. I'm gonna be totally honest. Or I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I'd rather put that $50 towards PS Plus at this point.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
PS Plus is getting more day one games at this point, and they're indies that I want to play, so why not?
yeah. Um,
Uh, so yeah, any final thoughts on the pricing debacle or on preservation with the Switch 2? Because we do have some
all
stories to
right.
get to, and we're already running long.
Yeah, I don't have anything that I haven't already said.
Okay.
And just like the final thing is like to me personally, I don't think it's as big of a deal as the internet is making it out to be, but I also know I'm in a different position than a lot of the people out there who are complaining about it in a real way and not just a faceless Twitter
Yeah.
egg. So,
Yeah, I think that's what we have to take into consideration is that
mhm,
like there are very real people with these concerns and not just
mhm,
saying it because fuck Nintendo. Like there are
yeah,
there are real people who are going to have a very very hard time affording
mhm,
new consoles and games. And like it's not just limited to Nintendo. Like Xbox, funny enough, has become like the most budget friendly of the current gen
yeah,
consoles with the
yeah.
Series S.
And I think that's what people were counting on is that Nintendo was going to be the budget friendly thing, right? And
I mean,
it's
the Switch at $300 was such a steal for what it did, right?
yeah. And then the
Even if you
Switch
couldn't
Lite,
play third-party games, like as an indie machine and a Nintendo machine, it was fantastic.
yeah,
The Switch Lite is a technical marvel.
it's awesome.
Like it makes sense that Nintendo is still going to support the Switch One. Like I didn't like the trying to equivalent what was said with what Don Matrick said 10 years ago. I didn't like that because it's not this to me, it's not the same thing. It's them saying, hey, we know people probably will not be able to afford this because of things going on in the world. So we're going to keep making games for the Switch One for like another year or
Mhm.
two.
Yeah,
This is nothing different than what
and
Xbox and PlayStation both said with their consoles.
right, and are still doing right. I
And
mean, in some ways,
honestly, there is a realistic and it's a kind of a harsh way to say this. If you want to play the best versions of these games and you give a fuck, you're going to buy a Switch 2.
hmm
It's like trying to play Ragnarok on a PS4 versus a PS5. It's night and day. You are not getting nearly the same experience on a PS4. You sound like you're taking off for Hawaii when you play it there.
yeah,
So it's just a matter of time. Like Nintendo can kind of dictate what they're going to do there. So
hmm
$80 games though they suck, and real people are going to hurt.
yeah.
All right.
To me, just on that $80 price thing that I don't think I said earlier, but like, I think obviously Mario Kart is only $50 if you buy the bundle, right? Like, but it's the digital version, and that's
Mhm.
where you're gonna have to choose. I think Nintendo is really trying to force people into their digital ecosystem now
Yep.
because they have more control, and we all know Nintendo is all about control, which is why Super Nintendo World exists at Universal and not Disney, right? It's
Mhm.
because let's move on because I have a lot to say that we don't have time for.
That's fine. All right, let's hit some of these. We're gonna hit some highlights. We're not gonna hit everything. IGN is doing an IGN first this month on Outer Worlds 2, which makes the Outer Worlds 2 direct news even weirder. These both got announced on the same day, so there's 11 minutes of footage up on IGN right now. Of course, the game looks incredible. It looks so fucking good. There's a lot of new gameplay systems. You can check that out. Rumor alert. I missed this a couple weeks ago. This story is like 6 weeks old. I missed this until I saw somebody talking about it on Reddit earlier. A Minecraft Dungeon sequel has reportedly been in development for over 2 years.
Yeah, I heard that on a podcast a couple weeks ago. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just thought I was just like, okay, like,
This is a layup. I did not realize. I knew it sold well. 25 million copies of Minecraft Dungeons 1,
yeah,
and a lot of that came to the
sold,
Switch. It sold like hotcakes on the
and it was on
Switch.
Game Pass.
It was on Game Pass also. I think that was one of the games that made them go, "Yeah, we should start putting things on other platforms."
Yeah.
Because I mean, yes, you have to account that Minecraft is Minecraft, right? But this game also came out 2 months into COVID. It was a game that I think very quietly got played that summer by a lot of people. It
Hmm.
didn't get the press that Among Us or Fall Guys did, but or Animal Crossing for that matter. But 25 million copies is nothing to shake a leg at. That's wild
Yeah, that's crazy.
for a game that was also on Game Pass. This comes from Twitter account XOX_leak, which is the account that leaks all the Marvel Rivals shit very, very accurately. They credited it to somebody else, and I'm dubious to know how how accurate this is, but supposedly according to the leak, the potential Minecraft, and this is all coming from the gamers write up of this, potential Minecraft Dungeon sequel has been in development for over 2 years, and Mojang is targeting a Q2 2026 release window. It will reportedly include desert and forest areas to explore, as well as an area that has been dubbed Honeycomb Fields. So, and it is codenamed Minecraft Spicewood.
Ooh.
Yes, there are two images that were leaked with this, one of which looks like key art for it. Um, and yeah, so big ass grain of salt. Mojang, we heard back when Legends got announced, was working on two games. So maybe this is the second game. Dungeons had already wrapped up feature complete at that point, I believe.
Hmm.
So and Dungeons got a few DLCs also. So
Yeah.
I think this is if this is happening, this is absolutely a layup here. I think.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm. I mean, again, I feel like Microsoft missed again by not having this ready for the movie.
I
Or
think they did, but at the same time, if they come out and announce this at the showcase after the movie has done what they did, what it did, they would at least be announcing a follow up sooner than Fallout.
yeah, that's true.
So, and I mean, it's not like Minecraft is ever out of the visibility. The more surprising thing to me is this wasn't announced at Minecon 3 weeks ago. Minecraft Live, whatever the fuck they call Minecon these days, but Minecraft Live had an event at the end of March where I think they focused on the movie more than anything, and they're supposedly doing another one later this year, so it wouldn't surprise me if they came out, announced this with a quick trailer. They had another little quick trailer during like a Nintendo Direct, and then bam, we go full speed ahead this fall, showing like actual gameplay.
Hmm.
So I think this that, again layup. People are gonna love that. Kids are gonna eat it up. It's very much like kids' first Diablo, which is great.
Hmm.
Speaking of Diablo, Corey, we got a roadmap for the year on this. They are doing two IP collaborations this year that they say are franchises that fit within the torturous world of Diablo 4. So I'm curious to see what those are. I wonder if maybe a FromSoft collab is coming. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that would make
Uh,
sense.
just in terms of cosmetics. Some of the things on the roadmap, though, for the rest of this year include Chaos Powers, Infernal Horde updates, dungeon escalations, earnable pets, which I guess pets are already earnable in here, but it's new ones. Heradric Powers, which with quests and reputation boards, boss powers, and a new apparition incursion activity, which is supposed to be coming out this quarter. Um, Continuing on into that's seasonal stuff. It looks like permanent additions include layer bosses, seasonal journey updates, console keyboard and mouse support coming this summer, coming in July.
That's big.
Nightmare dungeon activities, new layer bosses, and then here's the big one. Next year's isn't quite fully revealed yet, but new ranking system, leaderboards. There's something that's blurred out at the bottom. It says new something, and it's covered in flames. And at the very top, of course, the new expansion. Um, that expansion, if I had to guess, is probably Q2. They have said that this expansion will be the last expansion for Diablo 4. They will not do a third expansion for it. Diablo 4 is already on Game Pass, of course. It's been wildly successful. This game has sold bonkers copies. And alongside all this, we also got Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls Shadow dropped on Game Pass. So that's a big thing. Still waiting on that Diablo 2 Resurrected to drop on there at some point.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that's not on there. Although, like, you can kind of get that pretty cheap. And that
Sure,
the bundle comes with 3, right? 2 and 3, right?
I think they did a bundle like that. I don't
There,
remember exactly.
there's one on Switch that's like that. It's like the ultimate edition of
Yeah.
Resurrected. It comes with 3.
Speaking
So
of games for Switch 2, Diablo 4.
yeah, that seems like
Diablo 4 feels like it should be a shoe-in.
especially with how popular Diablo 3 was when it came out on Switch, right? Like,
yeah, it had special content also.
Yeah.
So
also with like all this cross progression stuff going on. And
cross progression, but also like I just keep thinking about the mouse functionality.
Yeah.
I think that would just be so cool. So
yeah, I mean that's gonna make not that Overwatch is popular, but it's gonna make games like that even more interesting on Switch 2, right? I mean,
sure.
I don't know why Overwatch was the one game that came to my mind, but
Overwatch, God, what a disaster. A smorgasbord of games hit Game Pass this week over the last week, including Borderlands 3 Ultimate Edition. It's the Ultimate Edition, not just Borderlands 3. It's the actual one with all the DLCs. Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls, South of Midnight, Descenders Next, and I think Descenders Next came out. I don't remember if that got delayed or not. And a game that people are hailing as one of the best games of the year, and sounds like it could be a front runner for some of these indie awards at the end of the year, similar to Balatro last year. Blueprints.
Yeah, I saw
Blueprints taking the gaming world by storm now.
So what is this game?
Blueprints is one of those games that was shown at, I believe it was at one of the more recent Xbox ID at Xbox showcases. It is a puzzle game, is what it is. Inside of a house. It's puzzles. It's made by or published by Raw Fury as well, and we love Raw Fury. But this game came straight to Game Pass Ultimate and to Hogwarts Legacy. So it's like a roguelike puzzle game.
That's what I wanted to ask you about Switch 2.
What's up?
Third-party games that are already on Switch 1. Do you think they'll take advantage of the Switch 2 version upgrade thing?
I don't know, because the only games that we saw that are going to take advantage of it are Nintendo games.
Yeah.
This might be a thing that Nintendo's like, oh, no, it's only for us. I'm sorry, like, it sounds asinine, but that would be the most Nintendo way to handle this.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, because Hogwarts Legacy was announced for Switch 2, right?
I think you're just going to get new versions announced, honestly, of the few games.
Yeah.
Control, I imagine Control will release with the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really count cloud versions of the
games.
No,
I don't either, but I mean, I'm just like thinking through my head, like, third-party games that you would want to take advantage of that, and I just, like, that didn't run well to begin with, and I kind of struggle to think of them.
Right, but I mean, even like the games Microsoft owns, right? Like Doom and Wolfenstein and Skyrim.
Those I could definitely see taking advantage of this.
Yeah, like and like the updated version of Minecraft and.
Yeah, it feels like Minecraft will probably get feature parity now.
Yeah, Overwatch.
Diablo 3.
Yeah,
I mean, Diablo 3 doesn't really need it because that was a 360 era game, but
yeah.
Trying to think of other things. Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Tony Hawk 1 and 2. There was one other one I was going to bring up that I don't remember.
Ori, the Ori games are on there.
The Ori games, I think the Ori games could definitely go for a facelift. Like, they're not as graphically intense, obviously, but I mean, hey, any boost, and I imagine those would be free updates, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, unless you're going to go do like the mouse support for some of these games, then I think it's just going to be free updates across the board.
Yeah. Although I almost wonder if mouse support would be easier to implement than graphical updates.
I don't know,
and
but like also
optimization.
like is Nintendo going to tell you to charge for it because they are charging for that support on Metroid Prime 4.
Right.
They're just rolling it into that graphical upgrade.
Right.
So, which like that's God, that's something else I probably should have gone into on the Switch. I've gotten really spoiled by smart delivery,
I know. That's what I've been thinking because like I see all these like obviously the PlayStation stuff is like a $10 upgrade,
which I
and like
hate. I fucking hate that.
I think it's dumb too. But and then it came out that the Switch updates are going to be $10 if there are no expansions and 20 if there are, right? Like that Kirby
And then
update.
there's some that are just free.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Either make everything free or everything paid. I'm
What?
sorry.
Yeah. I think I wonder though if that's just because of the sheer power of the system.
Like I'm gonna be just really really mean for a second. I should not have to pay $10 for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom to run at the rate that they should have run when it first released. Those games ran very poorly in handheld mode. I shouldn't. And Breath of the Wild was a Wii U game for God's sake, and it
Mm-hmm.
still ran poorly on the Switch. Tears of the Kingdom was damn near unplayable at times in handheld. I should not have to pay $10 for that in a phone app. I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't want Zelda notes?
No, I also don't like that the complete edition of Tears of the Kingdom is going to cost $80. That bothers me. With no DLCs, that bothers me. That really bothers me. That was already a $70 game and now it's being marked up. So
Well, I mean that's the Switch 2 version
I
though.
know I still
It's
don't
the
like I can
$10
still not
upgrade.
like it.
No, I agree, but I
I
mean
think it's bad. And this
it's
is
no
coming from the
different than
guy
the
who
other
said he would
games.
pay $80 for Zelda earlier in the show.
To be fair, you already bought this one.
I did buy
To
this
be
one.
fair, how many times have we bought Zelda over and over and over again until they just put it on Switch Online?
Me? None. I've never rebought a Zelda game.
Oh man, I bought Twilight Princess 3 times.
The only so I never bought Skyward Sword the first time, so I have that on the Switch, and then the only other game I own twice is Ocarina of Time because I got the pre-order bonus disc for free when I did the Wind Waker pre-order.
Right, man, what a steal that was.
God, you know that game goes for like $100 online.
Yeah, I know.
I've contemplated selling it just to make
I,
some quick cash, to make some money for Mario Kart World.
I mean, if you want to sell it, you can. I would trade you
Uh,
my Master Chief helmet for that.
are you serious?
I would heavily consider it. Yes.
We're gonna have to talk about this after. All right. On the Game Pass front, Atomfall recently released and has already hit in its first week. This was published like 9 days ago because we do a show every other week. In less than a week after releasing, had 1.5 million players across all platforms, which is the most successful launch in Rebellion's 32-year history,
Ooh.
which is just insane. That's insane to me. I love that they've been a huge Game Pass partner for a while. They make the Sniper Elite games for anybody wondering.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool news. Couple of other pieces of information. MiHoYo is it MiHoYo? Whatever company makes Genshin Impact is releasing Zenless Zone Zero on Xbox, and they're going to do a little event for that. Hoyoverse, excuse me, not MiHoYo. Hoyoverse. I don't know what I was thinking.
MiHoYo is the developer.
Oh, okay. I can't fucking keep track anymore. So that's coming. Tom Henderson over at Insider Gaming says that Ubisoft is developing a turn-based tactics game set in the Rainbow Six universe.
What?
Yeah, this was interesting.
It's kind of a neat idea, though.
The new game is about a year or two out, but is aiming to be released as a current gen console title for Series X, PS5, PC, and the Switch 2. Two sources with knowledge of the game said the camera is a top-down view similar to Diablo 4 or XCOM, and would see the player take control of Rainbow Six operators. Gameplay loop is said to be similar to Siege in a lot of ways, where players would have to select different operators based on skills to raid building, save hostages, etc. Total time of the game is said to be aiming for 25 to 30 hours, depending on player's skill, but that could change if content, cinematics, etc. are cut, apparently. This is interesting. I'm actually kind of optimistic for this because Mario Rabbids fucked.
Yeah, no, this sounds awesome. I mean, and Rainbow Six is actually it's actually franchise that makes sense for this type of game.
This it's funny because like all the Tom Clancy games fit into that. I feel this Ghost Recon and Division would all be awesome turn-based games.
Yeah.
I like this. If this doesn't come to fruition, I won't be sad, but I would play this.
Yeah, I would totally play this.
I would rather have this than Extraction.
Yeah.
That's the last Rainbow Six we got, which was just terrible.
Dude, I totally forgot that game even existed.
I try to forget that game existed. Day one Game Pass, baby. Day one Game Pass. Speaking of extraction shooters, though, Corey, we're going to talk a lot about this next week on Tower Casuals, but Marathon is officially getting revealed on Saturday.
I know.
Is officially getting revealed. It is aiming for a 2025 release from everything that we've seen.
Are we gonna become Mara casuals? That's the planet. That's what the planet's called, right?
No, I think I would quit.
Mara.
Marasov's runners.
I'm sure somebody would love to be Marasov's runner, Josh.
A closed alpha will launch on Saturday, apparently. Curious to see who or how they select people to be in that. But this is coming to Xbox, PS5, and PC. A lot is riding on Marathon, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
They really need this game to be good. It seems like Bungie they're doing the Bungie thing. They just had a whole ARG last week. They had people up to Bellevue to play this game. And Dr. Lupo was talking about this a little bit on his stream and said that he has known about this game for 6 years. That they first talked to him about it in 2017 or 2018.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's when he got really big into Tarkov, right? It was like around
I believe so. He said that there were only like 2 or 3 people working on the game at the time when he was first told about it by Bungie themselves. I'm not calling Dr. Lupo a liar at all. Do not aggregate. I'm not calling him a liar. I wonder because if we follow the timeline that came out about this game from various people, I don't think they knew it was going to be Marathon yet. And I mean, and he may not be saying, I don't think he was saying that like, oh, he explicitly knew it was going to be Marathon, but like he knew they were trying to make an extraction shooter for that long.
Yeah, well,
and he has play tested it for the last 5 years, apparently.
I feel like you and I talked about that on the old Xbox show at one point, that Bungie was like, it was a rumor that they were working on an extraction shooter because of the success of Rainbow Six.
Shooter. The rumor was Marathon as early as 2022, I believe.
Yeah.
If I'm following the thought process here, I think that's when we heard about it for the first time. I'm trying to remember. I'm seeing if I can find anything really, really quickly about it. So in 2023, they officially announced Marathon. So yeah, that would track 2022, I think, is when we got that first report about it.
Yeah.
Fall 22 is probably when we got the first. I'm trying to think back what was happening in my life at the time, and that tracks that we got that in fall 2022 because there was some really bad shit happening. And I remember explicitly missing the show where that information was talked about because something had happened that day. That's when we first heard about it, and the game has changed a lot since then. So, I mean, like, it's not a stretch of the imagination to say, oh, yeah, he's probably been playing iterations of it for like 5 years.
Yeah.
We know that Chris Barrett left Destiny around the time of Shadowkeep to go work on what would become Marathon eventually, and that's obviously long before he was fired. And then Joe Ziegler took over as game director, coming over from Valorant. I think that's the part that has me really hesitant, is that, oh, the director of Valorant's on this? This could either be really, really good or really, really shit for like a casual fan base. That's the thing I think Marathon has to nail, is it has to be appealing to both competitive players and casual players.
Yeah.
If anyone, I don't think extraction shooters have been good. I don't think there is I have personally not played an extraction shooter that I've given 2 shits about. If this has the classic Bungie style twist on games, this could be a huge hit, because Halo obviously revolutionized FPS games and console FPS specific. Console multiplayer is not what it is without Halo. And then especially Halo 2. Destiny brought MMO style games to console for the first time, and we can debate all day long. I know you and I are on the same side on this. Like, was Destiny a success or not? Like, unequivocally, yes. But people will still say it wasn't. And I think seeing how Destiny 1 and 2 both were at launch is going to give a lot of people pause to this game.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a free to play game, which I think is helping them right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay for it. I think that's going to cut down on cheating
Mm-hmm.
because that's been something that's plagued Destiny ever since it went free to play is cheaters
Mm-hmm.
in PvP.
Yeah.
So in a PvP only game, I think you have to have something like that. The comparisons I have heard for this compare it to like a mix of like Tarkov and Division's Dark Zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, don't know if I love that.
Yeah. But
I
I
don't know
mean,
if I love that. A lot of this for me is going to depend on the price point because asking people to pay for a multiplayer only game in a jam packed landscape is rough at best.
yeah, I think they're hoping, obviously the name Bungie carries a lot of weight.
Sure.
Um, Obviously Halo and Destiny carry a lot of weight. And going back to Destiny's success, like you could argue all day financially if, obviously if they made some better decisions, they wouldn't be in the situation they're in. But also,
Yep.
like, look how many companies tried to copy Destiny in the last decade
Mhm.
and either had minimal success or failed, right? I think the closest thing we saw was maybe the Division, right?
Yeah,
And like,
it was Division 2 that I think came the closest.
yeah. And so, like,
And even that took the first expansion.
yeah. I mean, the first expansion took you back to New York, which is what everybody wanted. So, like,
Sure.
and even then, like, how many people are actually really talking about the Division?
Not
It's
anymore, that's for damn sure.
yeah, it's if you're not playing Final Fantasy or WoW or what's the other one, or you're playing
I mean, it's
Destiny,
not even
right? Like,
just MMO crowd. It's like when Destiny started to like really hit like its cadence with
uh-huh,
Forsaken,
yeah,
all of a sudden you had Fortnite, Apex Legends, Call of Duty is still a thing. Like Minecraft is still a thing. Like people only have so much time
hmm,
for ongoing games, and I think that's going to be Marathon's biggest struggle here.
yeah,
But
and
I think they're going to see that Bungie logo and they're going to see that PlayStation Studios logo and go, I'm in. The only
yeah,
thing I'm worried about is Sony has got to be praying to every deity that has ever been thought up of in human history that this is a Helldivers 2 style game in terms of reception and like acclaim and fan love and not Concord because this could go Concord
yeah.
real fast.
It could, except that
Because extraction shooters are hard as fuck to market.
right. My
But if
my only
anyone can do it, it's Bungie.
Yeah, I would say the the two things they have going for it is like you can totally market it as the creators of Halo and Destiny
Mm-hmm.
and Bungie. Again, Bungie's name, especially to like the kind of casual player who is kind of into games and knows Halo, like that
Mm-hmm.
name still carries a lot of weight, regardless of how you feel about
People
Pete
still think that
Parsons
they
or their
make Halo
situation.
after like 15 years of not
Yeah.
making it.
So, they have that going for them, which I think is going to help a lot. And also, like, I think obviously this can't be a $70 game, right? It can't be a $70 game. If you're going to charge for it, it's got to be 40 or less.
I think so, and that's kind of what I was going to get to is I think this has to be a $40 game.
Mm-hmm.
$40 at least sets a price point that's high enough that if people buy it, they're not going to be like rampant cheaters.
Yeah.
But it also keeps it like semi accessible. Like that's a big reason why Helldivers 2 was so popular, was its
Mm-hmm.
price point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
look
but
how
also like
many it
Concord
sold
was
like
also
15 million
$40.
copies. Do what?
Concord was also $40.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, again, Helldivers like had a little bit of IP recognition, and
Yeah.
they promoted the hell out of that game for like 3 showcases leading up to it.
Yeah.
The other thing is this has the Bungie name, like you said, this has the Bungie name. I'm just very bewildered why we're doing this on a Saturday. To me, that screams that the closed alpha is going to be a lot bigger than we're thinking.
Yeah. Well, you can already download it on Xbox. Did you see that
Yeah, you
people
can
were
download the
downloading it?
placeholder. I have it on there already because I like looking at unannounced games. I've had the Fable one on there for like 3 years now. But it is notable that that is there because a lot of times the placeholders are for games that are up for pre-order or they're first-party games that are in the API.
Yeah.
Marathon is kind of an exception. And I mean, Xbox Wire was promoting this. Like Xbox's people are like on this.
Mhm.
So I think there's still a cozy relationship there. I mean, obviously, we just saw Destiny 2 cosmetics come to Sea of Thieves. I think there's still a very friendly relationship there, regardless. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see what Marathon looks like. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm ready for
I'm
news on Frontiers, but man, to see Marathon 2 years after it was formally announced is going to be big. I'm
yeah,
very
plus like
worried. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's gonna be nice to see Bungie explore. Obviously, Marathon's an old IP, right? But like, it's gonna be
How many
nice
people
seeing them
really know
explore
the
a
lore of
new.
Marathon, though? Let's be honest.
I mean,
Not a lot of
I didn't
us.
I didn't learn about Marathon until after Halo came out, and I was like, "What's this
Yep.
logo?" And I looked it up. It's
Yep.
like
Yep.
Marathon. Oh, what's
Yep.
this? And then like Durandal and one of the other ones came to Xbox 360 Arcade or whatever. But like, it's just gonna be nice to see Bungie have a little bit more freedom to create in a new world where, obviously Destiny has all these rules, and that lore is so built up already that they have restrictions at this point, where like this kind of feels like we can kind of do whatever we want within this world now. Like, it just, I'm excited to see them take on something new like this.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what this turns out like. Um, I'm definitely I'm concerned about long-term player retention on this game though, because man, let me tell you something. Destiny has really struggled with it over the years, and I think that this is going to be something. It's because I mean, like, listen, it's a paid game. Like, you have to keep content coming for this. Some of the stuff that we've heard about this is that there's going to be dedicated servers. There's going to be dedicated servers. They're developing like their own internal like anti-cheat team. A lot of that's also going to be modded or automated. So I think that could go downhill like really fast in a hurry if it's not done correctly. But I mean, there's a lot of really passionate people working on this. Destiny's narrative director Julian Arden was giving her blessing to this team and being like, the lore that they've cooked up is incredible. If there's anything I
Mm-hmm.
expect from Bungie, it's incredible worlds. It's incredible world building. I just wonder
Mm-hmm.
how you're going to tell a story through an extraction shooter. Honestly, I don't want this to be like, oh, you have to go find the lore pieces in the world to find out the lore. Like that's going to make me so disengaged so quickly.
Maybe
Like
they'll
a
bring
game
back
like,
grimoire cards.
oh my god, I would just
Maybe that's what you're extracting. Lore.
I would commit murder. Um, this makes me worry about Bungie as a studio though, because if this game's not a hit, they're kind of
Mm-hmm.
fucked. Like
Yeah.
not kind of, they are. Like,
No,
listen,
they
we
they
both
are.
love Destiny. We do a Destiny podcast. Destiny is its glory days are behind it now. Um, Frontiers needs to be a fresh boot for that franchise, but damn, I think it's got to stop being free to play in order for that to do. And you can't walk back free to play. I'm sorry, like you just can't.
Yeah. I
They're
mean, the only
they're
way.
between a rock and a hard place there, and I think that a lot of Destiny players are going to see some of the things they're doing with Marathon and go, "Why the fuck can't we get that in Destiny? We've been begging for dedicated servers and automated anti-cheat for years and years and years, and most of us point to the game going free to play as the inflection point of
Mhm.
cheaters."
Yeah, and I think the only way, I mean, there's so much that has to go into that to even consider going, like, walking back free to play and getting dedicated servers. Like, first of all, like, it would just have to be Destiny 3 at that point, or like the next iteration of
Sure.
Destiny. It can't be built off Destiny 2, which means
No.
you're going to want to build a new engine to incorporate that anti-cheat, because you're going to want to optimize it for Steam Deck, because obviously that's popular. And like,
Yeah.
there's so much that goes into that like, is Destiny even going to be popular for long enough for them to even consider that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny because I think all the goodwill they got with Final Shape has been squandered over the last 9 months
Hmm.
because episodes have
Yeah.
not been it. I mean, this is a discussion
Well,
for Power
also,
Casual,
like,
but
yeah, I mean, also all the layoffs too also squandered a
yeah,
lot of that
that was
goodwill.
the other thing I was going to say. I'm pretty worried because they've done a lot of layoffs there, and man, I have a really hard time getting too excited knowing what this studio has done to its workers over the last 2 years. And
Hmm.
all the stories we've heard about it that they're trying to rush it out the door in 2025, even though it probably isn't ready. I I'm worried. I'm worried this game is going to come out really bare bones, and they can't afford another bare bones release like Destiny and Destiny 2 were at launch. And I have a really
Hmm.
bad feeling we're headed for it. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll talk a lot of marathon next week, though. One final story. This is it. This is the final one. And oh boy, I do not like this.
Uh-oh.
Last weekend, a bunch of Xbox fans noticed a new Quake 2 AI demo Microsoft has made playable online, and oh boy, the reaction is overwhelmingly negative. It's part of the Copilot gaming experience that was unveiled, its new AI model back in February, where Microsoft was feeding the AI bleeding edge data, which horrible place to start, I guess.
Oh, right. I forgot that.
Um, and they also made claims this is going to help with game preservation and this and that. People have said this is a 10 frames per second experience at best. Just some of the
Yes.
responses: ew, disgusting. This I
You
have
and
faith that
disgust.
this worthless garbage will fade away like with NFTs. This is diabolical. As a designer, I've been strong against AI this way since day one. It's killing the creative industry, and those most affected are not being listened to. This is about saving money. This is from pure Xbox. There's so much of this, and a lot of this is laced with profanity. There are people who are trying to say that they think this is a positive step, but yeah, this looks terrible. This thing looks awful. You can play it now, and it just looks bad. It looks bad. I don't know why anybody would support this. This is the same problem I have with AI things that are at like AI filmmaking that people are doing. That looks like shit. Like you're burning down the forests for that, really. Uh, the most notable one is the OpenAI Studio Ghibli filter that's been
Oh,
a
yeah,
thing
I
on
saw
social
that.
media. I fucking hate that.
Mhm.
Miyazaki himself hates you for that, by the way. That is a style that his studio created and defined themselves over 40 years of work, and you just sucked all the heart and soul out of it, essentially.
Yeah.
So when we talk about there's good AI and there's bad AI, this is bad AI.
Yeah.
This is bad. This benefits nobody. This is terrible. Microsoft should honestly be ashamed. I really shouldn't have saved this for the end because it feels like more of a footnote than it actually is. But there's just not much to say. Like this continues to be an abomination, just like when we talked about it back in February. This is awful. I don't know why you would be pushing this when you are. We talked about like we just talked about how good you've been with game preservation, and then you go and bullshit like this, and it really makes me want to walk back everything I said.
Right. Well, I also think that this is another example of corporate Microsoft interfering
Yep.
with the
Yep.
original plan of,
Because have
Phil
you seen
Spencer's
how much
team.
they invested in OpenAI?
I'm aware. I work for a tech
It's
marketing
bad.
company.
It's real bad.
I'm dude, I've heard AI probably 6 million times this year alone.
Sure.
Uh, I mean, one of our events for where I work is the entire two of our events are based around AI. So like, I mean, it's not going away. But like you said,
No.
there's really good AI that is like, it's really helpful and whatever. But like then there's the corporate overlord save money AI that's what everybody fears. And it's,
Yep. Basically most AI. So
yeah.
yeah, it's not great. Funny enough, I think like when we talk about like good AI, like the Nemesis system is a great example.
Hmm.
That's a great example of like an AI tool, and even though it's not AI in the way that like we think of it now, like AI has been a thing
Right.
for quite a while.
Right.
So
But I mean that's an engineer programming AI for characters in a game. It's not
sure,
AI creating the thing, right?
sure,
Like,
and I think
you know what I mean?
that also like the way that it has like the dynamic difficulty that scales with how you choose to play the game. I
Hmm.
think is such a more interesting use of AI in gaming than any of this bullshit. So, I think generative AI can also be useful. Like something like Minecraft, I think would be able to make really good use of that. Or like when you have procedurally generated worlds, that's
Hmm.
another really great example of it. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what good AI can we get out of this because this ain't it. This ain't it. This is bad. This is really bad. Just
Yeah,
port the fucking games over. Y'all were doing so good making Quake and Quake 2 available for like $5. The Doom pack, like
yeah. I
focus
mean,
on
Machine
doing
Games
that.
added those. I mean, Machine Games added all that stuff to some of them, right? Like the Wolfenstein games, the old Wolfenstein games. Like, or was that Machine Games who added stuff to those games, the old games?
I don't think so. It might have been.
Somebody added them. Somebody
Oh,
added.
yes. They worked on the Quake stuff. Yes.
Okay, yeah, the old Quake games is, yeah. Okay, caught up. Yeah, no, I agree though. I'm worried about AI in a lot of weird ways that we shouldn't have to worry about it.
100%.
Especially considering the people who are in charge of the two biggest AI things, right? Like, you know, Elon Musk with Grok and XAI, and then Sam Altman with OpenAI. Like, there's some, yeah.
Some
I don't need to
heinous
say anymore.
shit happening. That shit's all over creativity and the people who make art. So,
yeah.
All right, Corey, get me out of here.
All right, Josh. All right, everybody out there. Appreciate your listens and your watches. Thank you so much for watching Xbox Casuals. Remember, we are out every other Friday on your podcast service of choice. Check out Tower Casuals. If you are a Destiny fan, our Destiny show that comes out on opposite Fridays of this here program. Josh, thank you for your time tonight, as always. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow us, check us out, subscribe, share, rate, review, wherever you listen. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.